Welcome, everyone, to the PFF Fantasy Podcast, IDP edition. I'm John Macri. And folks, finally, we're locking into the NFL draft content as the incoming rookies become the primary focus of this show for the foreseeable future. And we're starting off with everyone's favorite position on the defensive side of the ball, the linebackers. We're talking the top prospects, breaking down the tape, diving into the data, dropping ideal landing spots, and then ranking them ahead of the NFL draft. It truly is the most wonderful time of the year. So let's get it. All right. I mentioned the linebackers. I mentioned the rankings. I mentioned the landing spots and all that fun stuff. But let's be honest, I was bearing the lead because the real highlight of the show, the star of the hour, the belle of the ball, the thriller from the Upper Peninsula, from footballguys.com, the one and only Kyle Bellefeuil is here to help me break it all down. KB, how the hell are you, brother?
I'm doing great, man. That is quite the intro you gave me. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to run through a wall for you, John.
Hell yeah, buddy! Always worth the hype. I'm excited, man. This is my favorite time of year. We
Yeah,
always talk about this, just draft season, getting new prospects in, and just kind of breaking it all down, but also getting to talk to you and getting to talk to Joey and Glosser and kind of go through this draft class by position and yeah, just talk about some of our favorite guys who we think are going to hit, who's not going to hit, and all that stuff. But man, I've been looking forward to this for a while. So yeah, glad to have you on again.
oh man, thanks for having me on. I agree. This is an awesome time of year, and it's fun, like to watch the tape and check out the metrics and stats and everything, and get that all lined up. But it's way more fun to just talk ball and see what we like and don't like and where we think they'll end up and or potentially end up. I mean, I don't know how many we ever get right, but we try our best, right?
I like to think we get at least one
Yeah,
every year, right? I,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Yep.
I'm trying to think back to last year who was in that club. I actually, you know what, you had I know for sure you had Jeremiah Trotter going to the Eagles for the legacy pick there. That was
It was
definitely
low hanging fruit.
yeah. You know what, we take them where we could get them.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I can't remember if we had Junior Colson or not to the Chargers, but that one also felt maybe like low hanging fruit that we might have taken.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but hey, if anybody remembers, what we got right, that's great. Just try not to remember the things that we got wrong.
Definitely.
But yeah, we're gonna do it again, man. We're gonna do it again. This is
Yeah.
it's always a fun time of year. I can't wait. And yeah, talking landing spots is a fun part of it too. Like just to kind of get an idea, try to picture some of these guys in schemes that we might work for them and how they can be relevant for fantasy and things like that. It'll be a fun time as always. So
Absolutely.
we'll get into it here. Like I said, my favorite time of the year. It's better than Christmas in my opinion. We get to kind of peek at all the new toys coming into the NFL that we could be lucky enough to roster in our IDP leagues and sorting through this massive list of options every year in order to kind of identify which ones will hit and those with kind of the red flags, right? And that has been something that I've been trying to quantify for a few years now as far as identifying the metrics that matter from college to the NFL. And I finally feel like I reached a place where I think I feel good about publishing and like sharing what I've found. So that'll be something that we'll cover here today. Is my linebacker prospect model for IDP, as I've kind of found, I think, my ideal combination of metrics to deliver some success rates that I think are about as ideal for the linebacker position as I could get. Because it's such, Kyle knows this, you know this guy, KB. It's such a difficult eval from college to the pros. Like
Mhm.
even the NFL can't seem to get it right? Because there's
Yeah.
isn't a strong success rate from any metric, like any one single metric translating to the NFL out of college. But yeah, just countless hours tinkering with it. This is kind of what I've come up with as far as success rates for this model, and I'll share it on the screen here. It's not the best image that translates to the YouTube or anything, but just to kind of get an idea, basically using a prospect pool dating back to 2018. I got 377 linebacker prospects that you'll see that, and what you'll see here is that linebackers that score like in the 95th percentile, so the elite guys, they have obviously the best shot at becoming top 12 IDP linebackers at 50%. So 1 and 2, that's guys like Roquan Smith, Fred Warner, Devin White, Micah Parsons, remember he entered the NFL as a linebacker. Jordan Brooks, Nick Bolton, Jermaine Pratt, among others. Even Zach Bond, actually. It took a while for him to get there, but he finally hit. And then you'll also see on the screen like hit rates for top 24 and top 36 as we go through these kind of different percentile ranges. I broke it down by like every 5% just to try to get as specific as possible. But essentially, the higher your prospect score, the better success rate of becoming an IDP relevant player in the NFL. And that's the key. So it culminates in that kind of 50-50 shot of being a top 12 linebacker, which, I mean, honestly, considering the sheer amount of potential linebackers, again, there's like 377, and the small window of opportunity to finish top 12 in the NFL, I really like that number. And there are even names in there in that top 95th percentile who haven't been top 12 yet that I still believe can get there. So guys like Jack Campbell and Edrin Cooper, maybe even Peyton Wilson one day. So I'll find the sharings like as we go here, or I'll share the findings. I'll find the sharings. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, share the findings as we go here. But you could find the full article actually on pff.com along with my one for the edge defenders by the time that you're listening to this. So I know the edge one was free. I have no idea if that'll be the case for the linebackers one as well. I'll find out when you guys all do, but I'll link that in the episode description either way. But yeah, finding the right combination of metrics has been kind of the key here. I mean, using PFF grades and coverage grades, run defense grades, looking at some of the specific production metrics that matter, a little bit of tackle rate. It's not anywhere close to what I think we all hope it would be for IDP. It's a very small part of it. There's some athleticism score to it. Draft capital absolutely matters. As we know, that one's an easy one. There's things too, plays around the line of scrimmage and stuff like that all kind of went into this and are all kind of weighted differently. So I won't bore everybody with this very specific details of how it's broken down, but essentially this is kind of what we're looking at here for the prospect model is everybody kind of gets a score based on an unbiased look at all of their numbers through their college career. And yeah, coming up with a combination of all those numbers to create that score. And that's how we get our success rates here. So Kyle, that's enough talking for me. Sorry for the longer, preamble, but I didn't want to start talking about these numbers and referencing the data without giving some general information about where the data came from. So more on that as we go. But for now, what do you say we get things started? And we've got linebackers listed alphabetically and the top 10 projected draft picks in this year's class, according to the consensus big board. So right at the top, KB, tell us about Clemson linebacker prospect Barrett Carter.
Right on. First off, I just want to say we appreciate you doing the Lord's work for us IDP linebacker degens, John, because it's hard to find what makes these guys hit. So we appreciate putting in the work, man.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's fun. Like honestly, it took a really long time, and it definitely took multiple years, draft seasons at a time to kind of work through it and figure it out. But I enjoy doing it, so it was fun. And if I find some success to do it, I'm happy to show it, and hopefully people find that helpful. So yeah, appreciate it.
Well, yeah, beer's on me, man.
Thanks.
All right, Mr. Barrett Carter from Clemson. So first off, watching, he didn't do anything at the combine, I believe, right? I don't think we've seen him do much there. But first off, watching his tape, I thought, athletically, he looked like he had a solid speed and range. I thought, when he sees it right, he can cover ground quickly and close and get there. He ran just a 4.6 4.40 at his pro day. I thought he was a little faster. Not the worst time or anything, but I thought he'd be a little faster than that. But anyway, talking about his athleticism, you can see he uses his burst and speed as a blitzer. It gives him a little upside there. He had some nice splash play production, 32 tackles for loss over his last 3 seasons to go with 12.5 sacks. So, some nice splash play production on the line. Fit-wise, he seems kind of like a run and chase type linebacker. You want to keep clean, just kind of the style. Moving on to the cons, I guess, Clemson linebackers, I'm kind of biased. I think a lot of IDPers will be. We had Isaiah Simmons broke a lot of hearts, mine especially. I was a big fan. There's lots of us out there. Trenton Simpson was another guy I really liked. He hasn't quite taken the leap that we had hoped. Still has a shot, right? So I kind of am a little biased towards the Clemson guys as far as transitioning there. Instinctually, it seemed like he was kind of a work in progress. He gets himself out of position and he'll take some kind of tough angles at times. I thought there was times he wasn't always gap sound, and he took the bait on misdirection and kind of left his spot. And athletically, he has, he's got that little bit of burst in his game, and he looks like a hitter. But I didn't think there's times I really wanted him to stick a dude. And he just didn't quite, make the big hit that it looks like he's capable of. Just so that was kind of a bummer. But athletically, I talked about that here a little bit. So you think he's got some coverage ability, but it certainly fluctuated play to play a lot. He had just a 47.8 coverage grade. So this past year, so that's certainly not ideal. So I mean, there's a little there to work with, but he's certainly got a little ways to go. I thought in that regard.
Yeah, he's really interesting, right? Like, potentially a third round pick here is probably right on the fringes of that, right? And yeah, you're right. The Clemson linebacker draft history in recent years, it hasn't been great, right? Where Isaiah Simmons, like you mentioned, who's not even on a team right now, the NFL doesn't seem to know how to use him, but he also hasn't been great. And then like Trenton Simpson, like you said, a lot of IDP managers I think had hope for this year with Patrick Queen gone, and he clearly couldn't handle that role, was phased out of the defense. Jeremiah Trotter, he was just a 5th round pick, although maybe he has a shot this year to fill in for the injured Nakobe Dean. But yeah, then it's guys like Dorian O'Daniel and like Balin Spector, et cetera, right? So, all that being said, we're still kind of searching for this high end IDP Clemson linebacker. Barrett Carter, a potential day 2 pick, at least gives us another kick at the can here, especially, for anybody watching, he's got the 87th percentile prospect score. So there's a better chance with him than even some of the others in this class that are projected to go ahead of him. Now, a common theme among the Clemson linebackers in this prospect pool, at least since 2018, is that they're all like below average tacklers for their college careers. When you look at like their tackle rate, they're inefficient to say the least. And Carter actually owns the worst career tackle rate of the bunch at 9.6%. Now, one thing that like I cover in the article and can talk about here, which I feel like, is common knowledge and has been something that I've talked about before, but tackle rate alone does not make or break like an NFL prospect, right? It's nice to have, but it is far from a guarantee to translate to the NFL. And it should not be anywhere close to like the primary kind of factor in evaluating our rookie linebacker prospects. I mean, Fred Warner had a career college tackle rate of 9.7%. So that's crap too, right? But he's like a top 5 dynasty linebacker asset right now because there's so much more that goes into becoming like a full-time NFL linebacker for the long term, right? So the other part of that with Carter specifically was his role in Clemson's defense, where he spent more than 20% of his career snaps in the slot, which is well above average for the position, right? Like average linebacker college prospect time in the slot is about 10%. So he's playing double that in the slot. So that's a lot. It's far from a typical linebacker role, and it's pretty common for Clemson's defense. So we do kind of take that a little bit into account, and it's why like draft capital and landing spot matters so much as well, right? Especially for Carter. So yeah, day 2 draft capital and a typical off-ball linebacker role, I think would be really helpful for his, IDP potential, as it would for any linebacker, obviously. But I think he does become slightly more appealing, especially considering the prospect score for him in that 87th percentile. But I'm with you. I like what you said there about him. Yeah, being a little bit hesitant. Like he's not often the first guy to the ball. Like he's way behind there. He even looked at like his first contact rate for his career, 7.8%. That is a 12th percentile mark for all prospect. It's low. It's very, very low. So, part of it is playing in the slot and things like that. But at the same time, like he's not like super aggressive, I guess, and it does come into play here. So if that translates to the NFL, like he's maybe not going to be the most efficient tackler, but we'll see what draft capital does and landing spot. But what are you thinking about for him for landing spot if he does go like round 3, say?
Yeah, I kind of struggled to find a spot for him, and I ended up landing on Cleveland.
Nice.
I thought, there's questions around JOK. Shout out JOK. We hope you get healthy and are able to come back. But I thought maybe, like you said, they grab a guy like Carter in the third or fourth or whatever, and, kind of let him develop. And they still have Jordan Hicks there to hold it down. And, Carter could be a developmental guy and don't know how good they're going to be. So maybe they get him some run later if JOK is not healthy. And, that depth chart could use a little bit of youth and some juice anyway. So I kind of landed there. How about you?
Nice. Yeah, no, I like the Cleveland spot. I actually have another guy going to Cleveland
Okay.
later, but so I ended up going Tampa Bay. I know they brought in Anthony Walker in free agency. They obviously have Levante David back again on a 1-year deal. So I think this is kind of like a sneaky spot that I think would be like perfect for him specifically, where yeah, he'll likely have to sit for a year behind those two guys. But it gives him a chance to kind of acclimate to the NFL, get his feet wet in like a more typical linebacker role. I mean, there's a little bit more blitzing, obviously, and Todd
Yeah.
Bowles' defense, right? But coming into year 2 for him, I think, that would be a spot that he could be actually like effective for IDP purposes. And I think if that's the case, if he's slated to start in year 2 in Todd Bowles' defense, I think we could maybe forget that he went to Clemson and had a dog shit tackle rate in college, because there will be a lot of IDP managers that I think like that potential in the defense. So that's kind of
Yep.
the one that I was thinking for him.
I like it.
So that's Barrett Carter. We'll move on to the next guy on the list, which is Carson Schwesinger. Great name. But yeah, I don't know much if that's the exact pronunciation of it. Schwesinger, it seems right, but anyways, this is
We're
the
gonna roll with it.
UCLA. Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, UCLA linebacker here. So he's looking like actually like a late second round pick right now. So we'll see how that kind of shakes out. And that's typically a strong range for a rookie linebacker to get drafted when looking at them from, an IDP lens. And even in a class with 2 potential first round linebackers, we'll talk about those guys later. But Schwesinger is in a good spot to be IDP relevant just based on, his prospect profile as well. So he has that going for him. Then he also brings something that IDP gamers will fall in love with when it comes to his production profile, and that is that he owns a 100th percentile tackle rate for his college
Yeah.
career at 18.8%. So again, dating back to 2018. Now, obviously, again, before we get overly excited about that, there are obviously things to be aware of for that metric alone, and for Schwesinger, like his production and tackle rate is essentially the result of just 1 year as a starter, right? He barely cracked even 100 defensive snaps in his previous 2 college seasons. So it is a smaller sample compared to like most prospects' career numbers. The other aspect of, betting on tackle rate from college to the pros is that, again, on its own, it's not a stable metric from college to the NFL or even season to season in the NFL. But if we're looking at some comparables for him in the model, like among 31 prospects since 2018 with a 90th percentile tackle rate or greater for their college careers, only 4 of them have gone on to finish as top 12 IDP linebackers, so about 13%. Then 5 of them have finished at least top 24, so 16%, and then 7 of them have finished at least top 20, top 36, so 23%. Of the 4 top 12 finishers, 3 of them, Nick Bolton, Roquan Smith, and Leighton Vander Esch, all had over 1,000 defensive snaps in their college career. That's not the case with Schwesinger. He is under that 1,000 snap mark. Now, the lone exception of those top 12 guys was Shaquille Leonard, who I think will be, or Darius Leonard at the time, right, will be the most kind of optimistic comp for Schwesinger, as both guys were these like elite college tacklers, but also inexperienced starters that got drafted on day 2 in a class with multiple first round linebackers ahead of him, right, in 2018. So that's kind of the optimistic comp for any linebacker, obviously, and it's definitely a rare outcome, but I think it fits for Schwesinger right now, and kind of what his most optimistic outlook is, because there is like a fair bit to like some of the grades aren't perfect, but you could see why the NFL would want this guy like on the second round. Like there's definitely tools to work with here, especially as, you know, a tackler and somebody that can wrap up and make plays as a run defender to start. And then we'll see what he can develop as a coverage linebacker. But what did you think about Schwesinger watching him?
I really like this guy. He was one of the first few I watched, and I right away I just was like, man, this kid can play. Yeah, like you said, the 1 year, 1 year as a start, the former walk on to starter thing, you're always gonna like root for a guy like that. You love to see it. Yeah, I really liked his tape. And another thing I noticed or liked too is he came in a little heavier than I thought at the combine. He was like 242, which I
Wow.
was like, it was heavier than I thought. And he had a 39.5-inch vertical. He didn't do anything else, but that's some legit explosiveness there, which was second for the position. So I was like, okay.
Wow.
But yeah, I liked his tape. I thought he's a good athlete. He's got speed. He moves well. High effort guy, like you said. He's a big time tackler. He rallies to the ball. And he's got the athleticism to get there. For a guy that's not overly experienced, he was sure confident in what he thought he was seeing. And I always like that with a guy, just go make the play rather than sit back and wait. Like we were talking about with Barrett Carter a little bit there. Saw some, as a blitzer, he's a speed effort guy because that's just kind of how he plays. He's just going to go. So a little bit of something there. And, there was a little bit of coverage upside too. Some things I saw. I like there was one play that I kept rewinding. He in the USC game, he turned and ran with the slot receiver and he mirrored him up the field. I was like, okay, that's doing something. But yeah, I really liked what I saw out of Schwesinger.
Schwesinger, sure.
Sure.
Schwarzenegger. Yeah.
There's only, a couple of the concerns, like we already said, inexperience shows up sometimes. He's only played 1 year. And, I thought as far as like taking on blocks, he's got to more evade and slip them right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to just stack and shed in that. So he's going to use his athleticism. But I really like this kid. He was one to me that I really enjoyed his tape.
Yeah, he's the fun one, like you said, just on the complete opposite end of the spectrum of Barrett Carter, right? At least as far as like aggressiveness and getting those tackles, right? So for IDP purposes, if he gets equal opportunity in the NFL and is able to get on the field, like we obviously do like that aspect of his game a lot more, and that can translate.
Yep.
So that's it was a good call. I like Schwesinger quite a bit. As far as landing spot goes, thinking about him, I went with the Seattle Seahawks. I like Tyrese Knight as a potential sleeper for 2025 right now, and as one of the kind of winners of free agency. But this is one of those spots where I think they could still use an upgrade at LB2 after bringing back Ernest Jones as well. Like, even if they don't think that Schwesinger is ready to pass Knight on the depth chart, year one, I think he's a good bet to make for Mike Macdonald's defense where they can utilize him maybe in those kind of early down packages, not unlike the part-time role that Knight played last year. Like you said, there's inexperience there. I think the NFL is going to be well aware of that. Like, and they're not going to want to throw him to the Wolves right away. That anything can happen, but I think there's the most likely path is that he's limited in his playing time in year one, just to kind of get used to the NFL and get some more experience under his belt. But I think if we want like a really exciting spot for Schwesinger for IDP, this is the one for me where I think he could potentially thrive for the long term.
Yeah, no, I like that spot. I like that spot a lot. I went with the Rams. I just, it's like, Omar Speights is there, short a little bit at the end, played a little better end of the year, undrafted guy, and they just signed the Landman, right? Nate Landman. And
right.
I wanted like a fun IDP productive type player to just hold it down for the Ram, a guy we like. And I was like, man, this kid would be fun there. It might be throwing him to the Wolves a little bit. Like you said, I'm not sure he's ready to just be like, here's the dot on your helmet, go. But I'm like, just give the Rams a guy. You know what I mean? Let's give them a guy so we don't have to, pick between Christian Rosebooms and Nate Landmans and Omar Speights and all these guys every year. And Troy Reader ends up showing up and, trying to figure that out. Give him a guy. So I picked the Rams for him.
Yeah, no, the Rams are definitely in my list of landing spots here that we'll talk about because we need somebody to like. I would be shocked if they do not draft somebody to play linebacker. They can't go into the season with these guys, Omar Speights and Nate Landman, and I don't even remember who the hell else they have there, but
I know
they're all not good. That's kind of the point, right? So
They need to
Yeah,
solve that situation instead of just rolling with whatever.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
yep,
It has to be right because
yeah,
their defense has played well. Like there's
right,
bright spots on that defense right now. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean, if you could
exactly.
upgrade at linebacker,
Especially
hopefully,
up front, they're young and talented up front, on the interior and off the edge. So it's like put a
yeah.
guy in the middle to run the show, and let's let it rip for us IDPers.
Yeah, yeah. I honestly, I know people like Omar Spates. I can't. I don't think he's good enough. So we'll
I'm with
see.
you.
We'll see.
I'm
Yeah.
with you.
But yeah, obviously would love Schwesinger there. So, all right. Next up on the list is Chris Paul Jr. out of Ole Miss, potentially a day three linebacker in the draft. But tell us about CPJ here as a prospect.
Yeah, Chris Paul. One thing that stuck out with him is I thought he was just like a sound tackler for like a smaller linebacker. Is he 6 foot 220 something, maybe 225 or 222? I just thought he was a sound tackler. He had just 4 missed tackles over 621 defensive snaps.
Hmm.
I thought he played with good balance, kept his feet under him, and it kind of aids his technique. He uses his base well. I thought he looked comfortable in zone, saw a little bit there. He had a 78.1 coverage grade. Showed some good burst as a blitzer, and he was able to find the lane a few times, and create a little pressure. So I thought there's a little bit of 3 down potential to his game to impact in different ways. Like I said, he's on the bit on the smaller side. He doesn't have ideal length either, just 29 and 7/8 inch arms, smallish build. That can, if linemen find him, they can wash him out. It's what it is with these smaller guys. He's not going to be able to anchor down, and he's going to have to beat him to a spot. And he seems athletic enough to do that. He just got to kind of be able to read and beat him to the spot, make the play. Instinctually with his eyes, I thought they could be a little hot and cold. There was some ups and downs. I thought there was more ups and downs, but there was, times where he left a little bit out there. But overall, I liked Paul. I thought he was a fun one too to watch. He these SEC guys, it ain't easy, and I thought his tape was pretty solid. So
Yeah, I thought so too, right? Like I watched him a fair bit a few weeks ago, and yeah, I came away like feeling optimistic about him. Like you said, that he's definitely on the smaller side. So you see some of those parts of his game get factor in as far as
yep,
dealing with offensive linemen at the second level and stuff. But yeah, I mean, look for the YouTube crowd or anyone who read the article, they'll notice that Chris Paul has a 90th percentile prospect score, which kind of makes him the most intriguing day three linebacker in this class. And yeah, like he's already ranked the highest ranked day three linebacker of the class according to the consensus boards. But the fact that he owns like a better prospect score than some of the expected guys to go ahead of him in the draft makes, I think, his outlook a little bit more encouraging. We're looking at a slightly better shot than 1 in 3 in becoming a top 12 linebacker in that 90th percentile, better than 50% to become top 24, and then 2 in 3 chance of becoming at least top 36. Now, Paul, his draft capital probably can and will work against him here. But the point is that, he's a good enough prospect to potentially overcome that capital. I think like if he does end up getting drafted on day 3 instead of the first 3 rounds of the draft, like he'll join a group of just 4 prospects who were also drafted in that range and also scored in the 90th percentile of prospects in the model. So not a big group, but among those 4 linebackers, Josie Jewell, Tyrese Knight, Cedric Gray, and Troy Dye. So only Jewell has finished among the top 24 at his position for IDP, though Tyrese Knight came close last year, just at least if we're looking at, his stretch down the later half of the season. Cedric Gray, Troy Dye, they've had their moments. And for Knight and Gray, maybe specifically, there's still hope that, it's early in their NFL career that they could find success. But with all that considered, I still found myself kind of feeling optimistic about Paul like sticking
mm-hmm.
around in the NFL. Like as long as the size thing doesn't become a huge issue, we've seen smaller linebackers have success, and we've seen them, be used more in that kind of modern linebacker role because they're a little bit better in coverage and stuff like that. They can move around a little more. So we'll have to see how the NFL views him and what team takes him. But yeah, I think maybe does get a shot at some point down the road, like even if not right away, which to me probably makes him a late round flyer, like in IDP rookie drafts. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't mind Chris Paul at all.
Yeah, I'm right there
Uh,
with you.
yeah, what did you think about landing spot for him?
I went with San Francisco. You
Oh,
know,
me
they got
too.
the spot. Did you? All
Yeah.
right. Hey, look at us. Look at us, man.
There we go, man.
Um, the Molson brothers, man, we're back. We're so
Always,
back.
always in sync,
Um,
buddy.
yeah, I thought there's the spot next to Warner. Dre Greenlaw left. D Winters is there. He was another. And the thing is like he's a smaller linebacker when he came out of TCU and stuff. So it's not something they're against taking a guy in like the
Yep.
fourth, right? And so I thought, well, that's a good spot. He can pair up with old Fred and like you said, maybe we take if he goes to a spot like that, someone you can take late and see how he develops. So
I literally on the exact same wavelength there, QB. I mean, yeah, Dre Greenlaw's off to Denver. Obviously, they have Fred Warner there. Seems like D Winters, like he's probably in a good spot to start for maybe this coming season.
yep,
But yeah, like for a team that like has to shed some cap and trying to stay
yeah,
cheap with their linebacker depth since Warner
yeah,
is more expensive, like that could help them quite a bit. And I think he's good enough to move up the depth chart and kind of contribute as a consistent starter, like beyond his rookie year. So man, that's interesting. If this one does happen, I mean, then
yeah.
we're I don't know. I don't even know what to call that. Kind of serendipitous pickings here for both of us having San Francisco and maybe him landing in San Francisco. I think would be a lot of fun. But yeah, I like that spot quite a bit.
I think if he ends up there, he owes us a beer. So
That's a good call. Yeah, I
yeah,
I would like to see him at least reach out and say thank you, because San Francisco's a nice spot to be if you're an NFL
yeah,
player. So
absolutely.
uh, yeah. All right, let's move on to the next name on the list here. So I got Cody Simon of Ohio State. So sorry, I kind of forgot that I chose like the double wrister Selly for Simon's pick on his player card there. So
Excellent.
Simon out of Ohio State, he just cracks the top 10 consensus linebacker prospects right now. And Ohio State is kind of another school like Clemson. We haven't really got a reliable IDP asset from them in a while,
Yep.
so maybe they're due here. And I'm thinking about guys like Jerome Baker, Pete Werner, Malik Harrison, all kind of meh, right? Like I'm not sure if I'm missing anyone from recently, but if we're gonna go after Clemson, OSU deserves a little bit as well. So
Yep.
maybe Cody Simon can be that guy, and he does own like a fairly encouraging profile again relative to being like a day 3 pick. He's an 80th percentile prospect in the model. Now, there is a big difference between being a 90th percentile prospect like Chris Paul and an 80th percentile prospect like Cody Simon, especially for these day 3 picks. We talked about Paul's cohort of comparables, and it's not amazing, but if you look at there's 13 other day 3 prospects that ranked in the 80th to 85th percentile in this model. It's basically just Micah McFadden that has been any sort of IDP relevant so far, with the top 36 finish. So it's mostly guys like Shaquille Quarterman, Malcolm Rodriguez, Tommy Eichenberg, another OSU linebacker, by the way.
Mhm.
So maybe there's still hope for these guys like Eichenberg and Rodrigo specifically, but I think there's a limit to that hope. Like the ceiling, as far as ceiling goes, like pretty unlikely they become LB1s, even LB2s for IDP. Yeah, not to be overly negative with Simon, because I think there are aspects to his game that can translate. Like a really good run defender can potentially
Mhm.
contribute on those early downs, which would make him like a kind of a deep league IDP option. Then you never know, if he succeeds there on a good depth chart, maybe he does become a full-time linebacker. But I think that's the most optimistic look we can take with any day 3 linebacker. So I don't know that Simon is ultimately that different from the rest, even with a decent prospect score here. But how did you feel about Cody Simon? Because obviously, 5th round pick here potentially.
Mhm.
We don't usually have a ton of hope for these guys, but maybe you have something a little bit more optimistic than I do.
No, I long a lot of the same feelings. Like you said, you liked him as a run defender. I thought the same. I thought he was a sound tackler. There were some nice reps where he wrapped up and drove through the tackle, and that was obviously catches your eye. I thought there was a couple of times where, as a blitzer, he showed some good timing and burst to get home. He went on the edge a little bit. Um, I kind of selfishly wanted to see him run at the combine just to see what he ran, because he's got I mean, look at the picture. He's rocked up, man. He's
Oh
put
yeah.
together. He's got a solid frame. I thought he plays with good balance and stuff. He stays square as a tackler. I wanted to see kind of what he ran and where his range kind of sits there. Yeah, I liked him in that regards. I thought his eyes, he kind of misdirections his own reads, gave him some issue. He'd end up out of position and stuff. And but for the most part, like you said, solid run defender. The one thing I did notice watching his tape, he likes to hop step like Jordan Brooks, I believe. When Jordan
Yeah.
Brooks, he likes that. When he's setting in, he hop steps. And there was times where it was more drastic than others, and I'm just like, yeah, it's. I remember Jordan Brooks did the same. He still does. So that's
Yeah. A
that
little
was
gallop
probably
to get going there. Yeah.
yep. Yeah, you got to hit the choke and get the engine and ready to go. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I kind of had the same feelings as you as far as with Simon.
Yeah. I mean, we got to cover 10, right? Like, so some of
Yeah,
these guys are going to be a little bit later, not necessarily,
yeah,
great bets to be IDP, relevant, but, for those deeper leagues and stuff, like they're just to kind of give an idea of who these guys are and where they comp to. And, Cody Simon could be somewhat of interest. So, I mean, this was where I put the Cleveland Browns as a potential landing spot for him. The Browns, like you said, JOK, obviously there's health concerns there, but they're also a notoriously like rotational team at the linebacker position. So, the immediate reaction wouldn't necessarily be a spot to fall in love with for IDP. But I think,
yeah,
that the rotational nature of the Browns linebacker core kind of works for someone like Simon to get his feet wet in the
mm-hmm.
NFL and earn his way into a starting spot over time if he is good enough. But the other options there, Jordan Hicks, Devin Bush, who are both likely done with the team after this season.
Yep.
So there is going to be a bigger hole there eventually to be concerned about if you're the Browns. Plus, he stays in Ohio, so there's that connection.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the best I could come up with for Cody Simon. What did you
Yeah.
pick for him?
I sent them to Vegas for the Raiders.
Hmm.
I don't know what they're gonna do. They got a lot of things to figure out with their team. I thought maybe they take a shot in the day 3 with a linebacker who's a run defender to throw in the mix. They don't have much there. It's a weak depth chart, but they brought in
Mhm.
Landon Roberts and they hit it with Spillane in free agency to run the show, and they let him go to New England. And, Landon Roberts isn't a dude by any means. It's funny. He's one of those guys. You see the spike weeks with him, and then you realize he's only playing 20 snaps, so he just makes plays on 3/4 of them. But
Right.
yeah, I just put him on a team with a weak depth chart where he could come in and be a run defender and maybe have a couple spike weeks and catch on. Who knows? So
Sure. Yeah, and reunite with Tommy Eichenberg there. And
yeah, there you go. Yep. There.
So
I didn't even put that together. You're right.
So yeah. I mean, Vegas needs somebody, right? Like I can't remember actually if I have a Vegas
Yeah.
landing spot. Maybe that I might have been might have overlooked that one. But yeah, they've got to be a team that drafts the linebacker as well. They're dog shit there. It's not looking good.
Oh yeah.
But
Not great.
no, not at all. So all right, next up, who do we got? We got Danny Stutsman out of Oklahoma. So I didn't mean to choose a similar picture as Cody Simon's double wrister Selly. This one closer to a one-hander, I think. Not sure
Yeah.
if that needs to be factored into the eval here, Kyle. But tell us about Mr. Stutsman, the Sooner projected 4th round pick.
Stutsman, he a ton of games, ton of experience under his belt, ton of production. Played a lot of games at Oklahoma. I know tackle rate and that stuff doesn't really translate. We talked about that. Certainly you look at his production, 3 straight 100 tackle seasons, 35 tackles for loss over the past 3 years. He catches your eye with his production. Doesn't necessarily translate directly, but nice career, during his time there. Good frame, 6'3", 233, came at the combine. He's a bigger dude. Nice build. And he ran a 4.52 at the combine. It's a really good time for a guy his size, I thought. I didn't know what he'd run. It was a little faster than I thought. So yeah, that's a solid time for him at that size. But he's a high effort, aggressive, attacking guy when he's going downhill. He can really be a handful coming downhill. If he sees it right, he can get it both against the run and as a blitzer. He's got the frame and the acceleration to get there. So it's probably why he was so productive there, and he played a lot. So you're going to fall into tackles too, right? We see that everywhere. But thing is like he is a ton of experience, played a lot. But man, I thought his eyes and instincts were a real work in progress still for a guy with that many games under his belt. It was just. It's kind of a concern at times. I thought he was better as far as reading and reacting when he was just going downhill reacting, right? If they were just sending him, go here, he could, he's athletic enough and big enough to just pivot, make a play, just reacting to it rather than, processing what he's seeing. It's kind of what the vibe I got from him. I don't know if that's how you felt. So I thought missed tackles could be an issue. He's super aggressive as far as when he's going. He kind of aggressive, reckless, whatever word you want to use at times. And then the coverage, 47.7 coverage grade. I thought that showed up too. Is that something we think he can progress in? Our team's comfortable with him in developing in that area? He seems athletic enough if you can get him, to catch up, with what he's seeing and stuff. But it's just kind of some ups and downs. It's not that I didn't like him. It was just like, wow, nice play. Whoa, okay, what are you seeing there and stuff? But fun. I mean, hell, he's a fun guy.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. Like, just as far as ups and downs go, right? Because there's some aspects to his game where you're like, well, shit, like that could definitely translate to the NFL. Like,
Yeah.
there are definitely some good run
Oh, yeah.
defense reps for him, but then if you watch him on in coverage and stuff like that, that's obviously where some of the struggles come in, a little bit slower to react and stuff like that. But like you said, he's kind of this really athletic guy, but I just think he's he's your typical kind of early down thumper. Like if you even just looking at like his college numbers, where the majority of his value comes from him as a run defender and as a tackler compared to kind of what he can provide in coverage, right? Like that, like you said, that isn't to say like he won't be valuable in the NFL or for IDP, but it does provide a little less hope that his potential success rates here for 85th percentile. I think I don't know, like, so 85th percentile, we're looking at 28% of guys that become top 12 linebackers, 44% top 24, 58% top 36. The coverage grade aspect of it for me is the biggest red flag because, if we widen that scope for guys that, well, not even widening. I'll get to that in a second. But looking at the 52 linebacker prospects within the 85th percentile prospect scores, Stutsman owns by far the worst career coverage grade of the bunch. He ranks in the 9th percentile of all prospects since 2018. So now, like, if I do widen that scope beyond that bad of a coverage grade, and among the 85th percentile prospects, there were 9 guys who scored below 50th percentile in career coverage grade, right? He's obviously way below that. But of those 9, 2 of them, Jordan Brooks, Rashawn Evans, managed top 12 finishes. But they were both first round picks. Jerome Baker was the only other linebacker from that cohort to find lesser fantasy success. He was top 24 so far. And he was, I think he was, what was he, a 3rd round pick? I could look it up.
It sounds right.
Yeah. So, right. So they had the better draft capital than him as well. So you combine that into the factors here for Stutsman. It doesn't necessarily bode well for him finding like great success in the NFL, or at least as optimistic as like his prospect score would show. And that's why, in the article and stuff, like I'll mention the prospect score being more of a guide instead of like actual rankings, just to kind of get an idea of who these guys are and where they stack up to the rest of their other prospects. And that's why I like to kind of do these more like specific comps within their prospect score. I'm mumbling and going on here now, but it's not necessarily a locked in ranking, right? So with all that said, what were you thinking for him as far as landing spot?
So this is a little bit of a selfish landing spot. No, it's not Green Bay. I went with Washington. So he could go learn for B-Wags. I just, there's not a lot there. I know they took Jordan McGee last year. He was a guy, I think we both kind of liked McGee, if I remember right. Not a whole lot else there, but I think there's like IDP potential to Stutsman's game. Just the way he plays and as a run defender coming downhill, he's an attacker, high effort dude, and he can get there. But it's the coverage thing, right? And he's some things he's got to kind of hone, and who better to learn from than the gold standard as far as linebacker and IDP goes, and Bobby Wagner. And I thought like kind of a little bit of selfish because I'm like, I want him to go play behind a guy who can just like, this is how you swing, but this is what's up. So that's this is how it's done. And that's what I went with.
I like that. I think that's a good spot. And I'm with you. I like Jordan McGee as well. We'll see if that actually ends up becoming anything. But I do like that Washington landing spot for somebody. And Stutsman, I think it makes sense for the reasons you said. I picked Arizona. I'm picturing him in that kind of Mac Wilson role a little bit. Again, another guy who is, going to be limited to early downs at best if he's out there to start, but probably without, I think without the pass rushing role that Mac Wilson had, to be honest. I think the Cardinals will eventually get enough pass rushers on the edge that they
Yep.
don't need that exact role to be played by like a less than capable off-ball linebacker. They just signed Josh Sweat. They got guys like Baron
Yep.
Browning.
Yep.
Maybe Zaven Collins and BJ Ojolari have potential as well, and whoever else they bring in. So Stutsman kind of being more of that early down off-ball contributor for Jonathan Gannon, I think could work here for deeper
Yep.
IDP league relevancy and yeah, just again a way to get on the field and maybe prove himself and earn a larger role. So yeah, would like to see something like that.
I dig that. I got that spot lined up here too at some point.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right. Looking forward to that one. Um, all right, let's get back to the day one and day two prospects now, which I think most of the guys that we have left are pretty much in that range. But one of those names is really interesting in Demetrius Knight Jr. out of South Carolina, who looks to be like a late third round pick at the moment. Yeah, about third round pick, but according to most consensus mock boards, which is about right. I think just based on like the average linebacker prospect scoring between the 85th to 95th percentile where he's at 87.5. So basically near the middle there. But for Knight, like he is in this really small group of linebacker prospects who owns a 95th percentile career coverage grade and a 95th percentile career tackle rate. So there's only two linebackers, or no, yeah, just two linebackers and then him, so three that have had that since 2018 for their prospect profiles. One is Roquan Smith, the other is Ben Burke-Kirven. So So obviously two very different outcomes here for NFL career and IDP value between Roquan Smith, a perennial LB1 candidate, and Burke-Kirven, who was like a fifth round pick and played 15 total defensive snaps in the NFL. So it's also a good reminder why we need a larger collection of metrics to evaluate all prospects instead of focusing on one or two.
Yeah.
And then even then, the success rate, especially for linebackers, not necessarily what we would picture as ideal. But really like Demetrius Knight Jr. Ultimately, like really good at navigating traffic against the run. I loved his east-west movement, even in coverage. Like I could see him being an every down linebacker in the NFL, translating to IDP. I like Knight quite a bit. What did you think about him?
I really liked him too. He's got the NFL build and length. As far as the hold is on, you can see he uses it to make first contact with blockers and get leverage in times and stacks and sheds. And he can also, I thought there were some times he could shed blockers and he also found some angles to slip, like he could do both. And I love that, right? Because you got to be able to navigate the traffic. Those boys are big. Sound tackler with the wide tackle radius. We love that for IDP, right? He can get there. I was a big fan of his game. I really, the one thing is he's an older prospect,
Right.
So he 3 different colleges in 6 years and stuff. So we'll talk about this with landing spot more, but that was kind of one of the knocks. And I liked his zone coverage too. He looks straight line speed. He ran a 4.58. I thought he was straight line fast on his tape, and the 4.58 at the combine was good. Little tight in the lower body, but I didn't think it bothered him much at all as far as for nitpicking and stuff here. But I really like Knight too. I think he looks like a dude to me.
Yeah, he really does, right? And the only
Yeah.
thing, and we talked about it even
Yeah.
whatever it was last week, right? Where I was like,
Yep.
I didn't realize he was 25 years old. I
Yeah.
think you said like if he plays one more year, he could have played with his grandson
Yep.
or something like that.
Yep.
Right? But
Yep.
it is crazy. But I mean, look, 25 years old, obviously, it's not an ideal age. We want these guys, to be around 21, 22, but for how good he is,
Yep.
I think that is the thing that matters more than anything, because especially when you consider like the potential for IDP success for these rookie linebackers and for guys coming in, like it's not high. So, if the trade-off is that he's 25 years old already, but we're getting like a guy that can actually play a full-time
Yep.
role, like I kind of take that, right? Like I know it's not the best thing, 25, but who really cares? I mean, for linebacker,
Yep.
the turnover is so crazy anyways. Like maybe we get him for his rookie contract and then who knows what happens to him after that anyway. So I'm fine with him being 25. I don't think it's like a huge knock on him as far as where I'm going to rank him or anything like that. I think he's capable of playing in the NFL. And I mean, look, he's been around, he's got experience. NFL teams are going to value that. So
Yep.
there's that part of it as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it is crazy that, yeah, just, I think, what was it, just under 1,500 snaps for his career. So did you say 6 years he played?
I
Or
think it was 6, or it might have been
six,
5, but there's 3
5
colleges, I
years?
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 different colleges. Yeah, that's not a lot of snaps. So that part of it is a little bit concerning. But when he was out there, I really liked kind of what I saw. So I think that he could still translate here. But this was my Los Angeles Rams landing spot.
I
So
like it.
yeah, it's no secret that the Rams linebacking core is about as unattractive as it gets, with
Yep.
guys like Nate Landman, Omar Speights. Oh, Tony Fields was the other guy. I mean, Ellie, what the F are we doing, man?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if they don't draft a high quality linebacker, I'd be pretty shocked. And I think, getting Knight in the third round probably answers a big need for them. I'm not,
Yep.
again, I'm not a big believer in any of the linebackers they have on the roster right now. I have to imagine they'll look to upgrade there, and Knight would be a big upgrade in my opinion. I like him quite a bit, and honestly, this wasn't intentional, but only thought of it after I picked this landing spot. But it gives them a chance to go back to the third round South Carolina Gamecocks as well and right the wrongs of moving on from Ernest Jones. So
Yes.
there's some potential there.
I love it. That's great. No, it's great, man. No, I love the Ram spot. We were just talking about Arizona. I went with Arizona with him. For the same reason you laid out
Nice.
was Stutsman. Was like, right, Kaiser White's still sitting on the couch.
Mhm.
They brought in Akeem Davis Gaither, who I have always wanted to see him get a shot. So we'll see what happens there. And I thought getting a guy like Knight to pair with him would be a nice little duo. Not an overly tough depth chart. And like you said, phasing out that Mac Wilson role, because they did sign Josh Sweat and they brought Baron Browning back. They have Ojulari, they got Zaven Collins. Like, they should have enough pass rushers. Like, they could, putting out a guy like Demetrius Knight with Keem Davis Gaither, if that's like the path they go, they might have something there in the middle for that defense. So yeah, when you were talking about the Arizona spot with Stutsman, I was like, all right, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Let's
Yeah.
get rid of the Mac Wilson role and give us 2 linebackers there.
Yeah, it could work, man. I think,
Yeah.
obviously Gannon's had that before with guys,
Yep.
DJ
Yep.
Edwards and Alex Singleton, but
Yep.
yeah, I like Demetrius Knight, man. I think
Me too.
there's potential there. I'm just gonna get past the fact that, yeah, he's somebody's grandfather as well.
Yeah. And I'm with you though too. As far as the age thing doesn't bother me that much. I'm typically a 3-year window guy, especially
Yeah.
at a position that so much turnover year to year. New defensive coordinator comes in, new guy. You just never know what's going to happen. So
Yep.
I'm cool with it too.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, KB. Next up, one of the most intriguing prospects in this year's class,
Yeah.
Jalon Walker out of Georgia. I have a feeling we might spend a little bit more time on Walker just because he's a more unique prospect than your typical linebacker,
Yeah.
and requires maybe a bit more analysis. So I'll let you kick us off with the Jalon Walker eval because, yeah, he's a potential first round pick right now.
Yeah, this is wild, Jalon Walker, to figure out what to do with him. Where does he play? Where does he go? We didn't get to see him do much yet. It's okay. We're looking at him here as a linebacker / edge. Solid frame. I mean, look at the picture up there. Dude's put together, right? He's a solid frame with strength. You see his speed and burst when he closes. We're, like we said, we're trying to figure out what to do with him. Like, his versatility is a big asset he has, right? Because he can affect the game in different ways, both versus the run and pass. Speed and a power rusher off the edge with active hands at times. I thought too, you could see that. And that was probably because I watched the Texas game during the regular season where Texas was number 1 at the time in the nation, actually. And he lit him up for 3 sacks in the first half. And it was just a straight problem. I thought there were some times he uses his hands and strength to stack and shed blockers, even, when he's right there. And they use him as a spy, and it makes sense too, right? Because the guy's inexperienced. So put him out there, let him just go hunt the quarterback. He can just use his athleticism. Just kind of different roles all over there. A spy off the edge, in the off-ball spot, stacked up. But yeah, like inexperience, he didn't start until this year. That does happen at Georgia because they bring in 5 stars non-freaking stop, and it's like you gotta wait your turn. It's just kind of, but not. The inexperience just I thought it showed up in his reads and recognition when playing off ball. Just ups and downs. It kind of didn't know what he was seeing. Sometimes it makes sense why they used him as a spy too, because just go run and get, or put him off the edge and let it rip. And the thing is like, if we're talking just like IDP, like where does he fit for us? It's so tough to can he develop it off ball? Is he more of an edge? Doesn't necessarily profile as far as his build and length and size as an edge. Looks more off ball if you just look at his build, but can he develop it off ball? Do they want a hybrid type of player? His new team and scheme is like, I got to see where he goes, to try to figure this all out. It's so tough right now. Couple flashes in coverage, does this team feel like he can hold up there, and that goes along with the new, like you said, trying to figure out where he fits with his new team and scheme. Ups and downs with this guy, this first round draft capital potential is another, along with his versatility, is like 2 of the biggest assets this dude has, and along with his athleticism and being a Georgia Bulldog too doesn't hurt. So
yeah, it doesn't hurt. I mean, I'm with you though. Like he's a really tricky eval just because he looks like an off-ball linebacker, but he's much better as an edge because he has little to no experience as an off-ball linebacker, almost none, especially one that has to play like a true coverage role. So not just spying the quarterback, which he did do a lot of, instead of, immediately pass rushing and things like that, because that's a lot of what he did at Georgia. But I mean, actually dropping back in coverage and being tasked as a coverage defender and making plays, there's almost none of that on tape. And when he does do it, he looks kind of lost out there. He can't pick up guys in his zone. He doesn't flip his hips and chase. There's so clearly a ton of inexperience that comes out when watching him try to play that true off-ball linebacker role, that even with first round capital, I wouldn't be surprised to see him take time before becoming an every down player in the NFL, especially dependent on the landing spot. I think he has a better shot as an edge rusher than he does as an off-ball linebacker. I think he does that really well. But it seems like the favorite is for him to be an off-ball linebacker, and that I just worry about him in that role. I think he needs to start his NFL career similarly to how he finished his college one. He can't just be thrown into a starting role. So if you want to utilize him as the weapon that can, spy the quarterback, be used as a blitzer, that's what he'll do best. But you can't just throw this guy out there, even on early downs, and expect him to help defend the run, because he's just not ready for that yet. Linebacker, it's hard AF to play in the NFL, right? There's so much that these guys are asked to do that it takes years to actually be good at it. And you need more than just athleticism. And it's why you see teams and coaches always circle back to these veterans who we might consider mid and certainly less sexy than, these shiny new rookies, but they come with actual starting experience and knowledge of how to play the position because they've seen it all before, right? So I'm not expecting Jalon Walker to be thrown out there against, the Ravens, for example, and some of their elaborate run concepts, and, expect him to be able to flow to the right gap when guards start pulling and assignments start changing mid-play. I'd be shocked if he did well there, at least right away. And I think that's kind of what I'm getting at is it takes time, and I think it's going to take time with him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a sub package pass rusher to start his NFL career. So, man, it's a lot. It definitely helps that he's expected to maybe be the first linebacker drafted this year or to go in the first round, but because of his college prospect profile, which YouTubers again can see on the screen here, he is an interesting prospect. But because of the red flags highlighted in his model, there's still some concern there. Expected draft capital obviously provides a nice boost to his prospect score, where it isn't impossible for him to find success in the NFL and for IDP, because that capital will create playing time, which matters more than anything else for IDP production. But he owns by far the lowest prospect score of any first round prospect in this model dating back to 2018, in large part because of experience playing the position. And Walker, he has just 439 total career snaps as an off-ball linebacker coming out of
Wow.
college. He split his time between edge and linebacker, right? And not thriving at either really has kind of hurt his overall score. I do think he's better as a pass rusher.
Yep.
He's definitely better. But he's not amazing, right? And pass
Yeah.
rush production in college for linebackers does not matter really, like, at all. So the concern for Walker will be that he just isn't ready to step into like a true linebacker role for a while in the NFL because of that inexperience, which will likely have him being used as that situation specific guy. So I don't know. It's just something for IDP managers that we need to be aware of, that when it comes time to draft Walker in our dynasty rookie drafts, I don't think we'll necessarily be able to point to draft capital and slot him in where he's drafted relative to this class as a ranking for him. Like, I think it has to be lower. But maybe that's just me.
No, I'm with you there. It's a nice asset for him, but like if he's going to play true off ball, it's going to take time. Like you said, the intricacies of playing the position and being gap sound and passing off in coverage correctly and being in the in the right spot and everything. Like he's not, he didn't do it much. Like you laid that all out. It's a worry.
Yeah, it's a big worry. We know how much NFL coaches value experience, and there's just not a
Yes,
lot there. So, but they also value athleticism, and that's why he's a potential first round pick. And
right,
picturing how they could use him in multiple ways. But I think that you still, again, it's not going to take time. He's not Micah Parsons, right? Like Micah
right.
Parsons, he was able to do both, and there was always that potential that he could be the edge. But Micah Parsons did both really, really well. Like he was a
Yeah.
really good off ball linebacker as well as a pass
Mhm.
rusher, right? So that there's a big difference there between Micah Parsons and Jalon Walker. They should not be comp to be the same type of player. But what about landing spot? Because this is going to be the big one here. What did you think about potential landing spot for him?
Yeah, that was tough to try to figure this out. I went with Carolina.
Okay.
Ijiro Evero, he had Frankie Louvu back in 2023. Was a guy that did a little pass rushing, and shout out to the Green Dot King, Mike Waller. He had thrown out the Louvu comp with Walker, and I was like, yeah, that's if he's gonna do a little of both, it makes sense. So shout out to Mike for that. And that's kind of stuck with me as far as trying to find a landing spot as somebody who had a little experience with a player that did a little of both, to try to figure this out, not
Mm-hmm.
rush him in the one thing and let him do the one thing he's really good at right now, So yeah, shout out Mike for that comp there. And so I just ended up going with Carolina because I thought it made a little sense, but that was really tough to try to figure this out, where to put him.
Yeah, I think the Frankie Louvu one makes sense. I actually, because of the landing spot, I had kind of thought about him in a similar type mold. I thought of him kind of being used in that Caden Ellis type role to start his
Yeah,
career, right? So I went with the Atlanta Falcons
yeah,
because
that's
Caden
good.
Ellis he's an expected free agent after this season, and honestly, he might have earned himself a bigger contract than the team
Yeah,
would be comfortable with. So drafting his replacement with arguably, higher upside makes sense to me from a scheme fit perspective as well. And
yeah,
just filling a current need to an extent, because the best element that I think Walker adds right now is as a pass rusher. And one thing that the Falcons have been sorely lacking is a pass rush. So I feel like they could get the most out of him right now. But yeah, it's a tough one. I think I would like, yeah, Atlanta. I think the Carolina one makes sense as well. Potentially Washington. Yeah, if he's, learning from like a Frankie Louv who's doing something similar, those are kind of the spots that I think would make the most sense for him.
yeah. I like that Atlanta spot. That makes a ton of sense. That Caden Ellis, that there was a good guy to learn from, and he earned himself some coin after this last year. So
Feels
yeah,
like it. Yeah.
I dig that.
Nice. All right. Next up, we have to talk about another interesting name here. Potentially coming in as a top 10 linebacker for this class, Jay Higgins of Iowa. So great production, great PFF grades, but another one of those smaller linebackers. I think the biggest concern right now is that he struggled in athletic testing, which seems to have kind of hurt his projection a bit. Now I
Yeah,
do bake athleticism into the model, and it does hurt his score because, relative with the NFL, like, um, they invest. So yeah, the NFL, they invest in athletes, right? In drafts, we've seen this before. If you look at like relative athletic score, for example, RAS,
Yep.
Higgins scored a 3.34. That's not good for his NFL draft potential. If we consider every linebacker in this prospect pool dating back to 2018 and those that actually have an RAS score to reference, there are 76 linebacker prospects who score 5.0 or lower. Of those 76, 13 have actually ended up being drafted in the NFL, so 17%.
Wow.
Of those 13, only Jelani Tavai with his 4.35 RAS and Nick Bolton with a 4.84 RAS got day two capital. And then only TJ Edwards among the 74 remaining prospects has emerged as IDP relevant. So a 1.4% hit rate for those
Wow.
sub 5 RAS linebackers that weren't drafted day two. So it's a scary low hit rate. Obviously, anything can happen, and Higgins does share numbers, a number of comparables with TJ Edwards in terms of like high end PFF grades for his college career, pretty much across the board. So yeah, maybe he does become the next TJ Edwards, but the odds of that happening are extremely low, and that worries me when we see how much the NFL values athleticism and kind of veers away from poor athletes. But I don't know, Kyle. You tell me, when it comes to the tape, is there anything that you saw that makes Higgins kind of stand out as a potential outlier in this class? How are you feeling about him leading up to the draft?
Um, I like this tape. His Iowa guys are always productive.
Mm-hmm.
And they rag up the tackles, and he's no different. He graded really well, and stuff. He's just that classic Iowa lunch pail Captain Patch guy. I thought he's definitely a throwback zone linebacker as far
Yeah.
as, that's where he does his best work is patrolling the field on zone. I thought like that, it really showed off his like football IQ. There was times on like 3rd and 8, he would put his back to the line and keep it in front of him, right, and limit it to 6 yards to get the punt, on 4th down, and just stuff like that like stood out to me. Like he just has a really good field sitting in zone on 3rd down. Don't know you want him to play a ton of man. Um, but like in that instance, like I feel good about his ability to be you've done tons of work to show how much zone schemes correlate to tackle production for linebackers. So like if you can find that, I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a route for him to be kind of an outlier. I just I don't understand why he came in at 6 foot 224, I believe, at the comment. Why did they let him run? Why did his inner circle say run
Crazy.
if he ran a 4.82? Like if he wasn't going to at least get in the 4.7s, I mean, Ty Robinson from Nebraska ran out 4.83, I believe, at 280 some pounds. It's like you're going to get. It's just who's a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he wasn't advised not to run and do it as pro day and get ready to put up a better number to go along with his other. His tape's solid and everything, and his other, production and the metrics and stuff. So yeah, it's just like you said, the NFL likes athletes, and that's going to hurt him in running that 4.82. And his 3 cone was good. It was 7.01, which is excellent.
Right.
Short area stuff. To go, and he's a smart player. He can get to the spot because he sees it. It's just,
Yeah.
is he going to slip to the end of round 3? To day 3 or what? Because of that, are people worried about his athletic testing? So, but
Yeah, it's
I,
a good question. Like, and you make a good point, right? Like the instincts and everything are there with him. Like watching him, like he looks good. Like there's definitely elements of his game where it
oh
stands out.
yeah,
Maybe he isn't like this super athlete, but I don't
right,
know that he's as poor as like that RAS score, for example, showed. Like obviously, yeah, running the 40 time, that was a head scratcher
yeah.
of it, I don't know. It's so obvious to have not run it like that. It
No,
feels like maybe something went wrong there. That I don't
true. That's
know.
a good point.
It's weird, man. Maybe it's a glitch in the in the matrix here for
Yeah,
Higgins and
has to
his
be.
athletic profile, because there's a lot to like about him. And I don't know, like you said, if he finds the right scheme and gets the land, ends up getting the decent draft capital, like that makes all the difference in the world. And I because I do still believe that there's potential there, but damn it, it was so hard to ignore
Yeah.
there's some of the red flags, right? And
Yep.
just knowing, kind of the past success rates and stuff like that was what had me concerned about Higgins. So I don't know that, depending on how deep your rookie drafts are, and where he ends up going, like that he'll have to be drafted. But he is somebody that I would like to take a shot on, but
Hmm.
um, a lot's going to depend on what happens on draft day.
Yep.
What would you think about landing spot for him?
I went with Dallas. Um,
Dallas, nice. Yeah.
There's a lot going on there. I was looking for a spot that wasn't a crazy depth chart to beat out. I mean, they traded for Kenneth Murray, which is like whatever. I don't get it.
Yeah.
They signed Jack Sanborn. I'm like, hey, there we go. Matt Eberflus knows this guy, and we want to see this guy get a spot. Then they trade for Kenneth Murray. Makes no sense. Not a, I think we talked a little about Maris Lufau last year. There's a
Mhm.
little bit of something there, but not overly. I mean,
Mhm.
he did go day 2, which was a little bit of a shock. But anyway, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think Eberflus runs a fair amount of zone. Um, if I remember right. So I was trying to find him a depth chart with some zone coverage to pair it. I
Yeah.
guess it's like, where is he? Is Dallas just going to take a shot on a guy in day 3 and throw him in the mix with what they've just done? They signed a 1-year deal with, I think it was a 1-year deal with Sanborn, right? Traded some late picks to get Murray, and they got a day 2 linebacker from last year. You got a new DC. Maybe he brings in a guy in day 3 that he can see what he can get out of.
Yeah. No, I like that spot. I probably preferred Jay Higgins to Kenneth Murray at this point as
Yeah,
well.
right.
We've seen enough of Kenneth Murray in the NFL to know that this guy just doesn't have it at this point. So, yeah, as far as Eberflus goes, let me see. Zone coverage last year, 73%, so 7th in the NFL. So yeah, he's a top 10 zone defense.
Yeah.
In the NFL. So yeah, there's definitely potential there. I like the Dallas spot. Yeah, that would definitely be a fun one. I put Tennessee. They did the other Kenneth Murray spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, I like Higgins. I want him to succeed. So
Yep.
I had to find a depth chart that he could overcome, and
Yep.
I can't help but feel like the Tennessee one is a decent one. They obviously brought in Cody Barton on a 3-year deal, so that helps lock down one spot for them. But then,
Yep.
they traded away Kenneth Murray, so the other spot's kind of wide open. It's Otis Reese and Cedric Gray right now, and I like Gray. I think he has potential too, but maybe this gives Higgins a chance to throw his hat in the ring as well. So, yeah, I went with Tennessee, but kind of like the Dallas spot a fair bit here.
I looked at Tennessee as well with him. I
Yeah,
was trying to find a weak depth chart where somebody could take a flyer, and with an open
yeah,
spot. But yeah, that's
yeah,
I dig that one too. It makes sense. Like, not the steepest of hills to climb if he can, make a team comfortable with him being out there. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's hard, right? Because we do like Cedric Gray, and hope that he can
yeah,
kind of emerge there. But um,
yep,
all right, next up, potentially the first linebacker drafted in this year's class as well, out of Alabama, Jihaad Campbell. KB, it feels like it's been a while since we've gotten like a true star linebacker out of Bama, but can
yeah.
Campbell break that streak and be the next guy there?
I hope so, man. I really like Campbell. He was fun to watch. Really liked his tape. Really liked his game. 6'3", 235. Well put together. Big, nice profile, size wise for the linebacker position. Size, athleticism, range. Ran a 4.52. I think I don't know. I know the RAS can fluctuate once more numbers come in, but he was
Mhm.
like 9.85 at one point. I think written down. And I know more numbers come in, and Kent Lee updates that. But he hit the marks athletically. I thought he's a solid tackler, just a 5.9% missed tackle rate in 2024, and he
Mhm.
played a career high 781 snaps. So a nice volume amount there to get to show he can hold up. Like the splash play production as well, 12 tackles for loss and 5 sacks this year, so a little bit of that. He's got some versatility to play off the edge. He's a speed rusher with a dip and rip move that he flashed a little bit, so you can kind of get a little creative with him. Effective blitzer. He's got the size and length to get in passing lanes in zone, and athleticism to get in the way. A creative defensive coordinator can have fun with this guy to hold it down and move him around and do some really cool stuff. As far as nitpicking things, just his build, he can play high sometimes. Kind of got that longer build. There's some instances where he didn't quite come right downhill, and he was a little hesitant to fill his gap, and the lineman found him. Takes the eye candy at times. These athletic guys tend to do that. So his reads can be a little hot and cold. They just want to go get it, and it's like, oh, that's misdirection. So a play action or whatever, So he can get a little eager. He can get a little eager there. I'd love to see him up his block shedding game too. I think he's got the build and the length to really do it and use that with his athleticism and really be effective as a run defender. So, but yeah, I really like Campbell. I'm really excited to see where he ends up, man. He's a player.
Me too, man. Yeah, this is he's our top ranked linebacker for this 2025 class according to the prospect model here. He's 95th percentile since 2018, which just gives him the best shot to return high end IDP value from this class, right? So, when we break down that 95th percentile into linebackers drafted in the first round where he's projected to go, there are 11 of 19 who got that day one draft capital. 6 of them became top 12 IDP linebackers at least once so far, so 54.5%. A slight increase from the top overall 50% that the general top 12 hit rate is indicated here in the image. And then among the 95th percentile, there are also 2 very young linebackers who I think could be viewed as top 12 hopefuls still, since they're quite early in their NFL careers, that we could maybe add to that potential success rate at some point. That's Jack Campbell and Edrin Cooper. So we'll see what happens with Jihaad Campbell here, because he isn't guaranteed to go in the first round. Coming in as the 25th as far as consensus mock draft boards go, but for my money, like, he should still clearly be viewed as like the top true linebacker for IDP and be drafted highly among this year's linebacker class. Like, he could do it all on the field. Like you said, he's got the size, he can cover, he shows sideline to sideline range. He's smooth in the run game, even if not perfect. Just 21 years old and has already flashed so much potential. So, we could debate whether, first round makes sense or not for the linebacker position in general. But he'll have a shot to get there. And if he does, that only increases his chances of finding IDP success above all else in this class. So I'm very excited about Jihaad Campbell as well. And hopefully could break that Alabama streak here. There hasn't really been like a true star. Like, Henry To'o is basically the closest that we have right now as far as Alabama linebackers go, which is not ideal. Christian Harris didn't really hit either. So there's definitely potential here with Campbell. Where did you have him going do you think he goes first round and then where did you think landing spot?
I think he does. Yeah. I think he goes first round. I think that's going to happen. It's got to happen, right? We're excited about him. It's got to happen for us. We need a first round linebacker. We deserve it. We do. So I gave him, we deserve it, man. I gave him to Tampa Bay, trying to find that fit in the first round. If I was going to put him in the first round, I thought that made sense for them. He can play alongside Levante David. I know they brought in Walker, as you said. He can high five and drink Gatorade on the sidelines when they come off of their town. I thought, he could pair nicely with Levante David. He could show him, teach him the ways and pass the crown to him and give us another 20-year career of nice IDP production that Levante David's given us, right?
That'd be nice, man. That would be so nice.
Yeah.
I would love that.
We're just trying to be optimistic.
Oh man, that would definitely have me optimistic. I would love to see that. That's a good spot. I put the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay.
I'd love to see him work next to Zaire Franklin, as the LB2 in Lou Anarumo's defense. Lou comes in, and I think he'll be looking for kind of his new Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt-like linebacker core. And Campbell is just a way better bet to deliver on that than, Jalen Carley's or EJ Speed or whatever free agent linebackers that are out there right now. So if that's the landing spot too, I think, even those that don't have Campbell as LB1 right now will find it impossible to keep him from that spot in the ranking. So give me that all day.
I dig it, man.
Nice. All right. Final name on the list. Let's close it out here with Smael. I hope it's Smael, man. Smael Mondon Jr., the other Georgia linebacker in this year's draft class with Jalon Walker. I don't know if Smael, I don't know if this is short for Ismail or Ishmael or whatever, but Smael is honestly, it's kind of badass. I dig
Yeah.
Smael.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the way you pronounce that one too. Um, yeah, yeah. Aside from comparing him to like Jalon Walker, for example, because they're both Georgia guys. Like aside from expected draft capital, Mondon, he's not great, but he does like own slightly better metrics for his college career, and he does at least have more experience as an off-ball linebacker in that Georgia defense as well. So he has that going for him, even if he isn't expected to go like, or if he is expected to go day 3. And honestly, that draft capital could ultimately be the killer for him, even if a 70th percentile score, prospect score that he has here isn't bad. It's just still rare for the linebacker position, with that score for a player who was drafted outside of the first 2 days of the NFL draft to become relevant for IDP. I think there have been 6 of a possible 44 linebackers that meet that criteria who delivered at least top 36 finish in a season, so 13.6%. Of those 6, only 3 managed top 24, 6.8%, and then just one, TJ Edwards, a UDFA, finished top 12 so far. So unfortunately for Mondon, when you add that context, those success rates are significantly lower than the general success rates highlighted in his player picture there at 16.2% and 25.5 for top 24 and 37 for top 36. So the good thing about Smondon is that, he has the size and athleticism to succeed in the NFL. He had like a 9.37 RAS, 6'3", 235. We have him listed out. I don't know if that weigh-in changed at all, but he also missed some time this past year, so
Yep.
didn't get to kind of build on that full-time role that he had in 2023. But maybe there's some hope that he can get back to that overtime in the right landing spot. I'm just maybe a little less hopeful for him than I am with some of the other late round guys, but I'm willing to be convinced otherwise, KB, if you're a fan.
I mean, I don't think I'm gonna totally convince you here. I had some of the same, thoughts, but yeah, you like Georgia guys for sure, right? And he's dealt with injury. He's been dealt with a foot injury the last 2 years, so it's kind of hindered his ability there, to be out there, put a ton of tape and a ton of snaps, and really give us a great look. Athletically built. He looks like he's got, like you said, the RAS was good. He ran a 4.58. Looks rangy enough. There was a really cool rep against Clemson. He squared up Phil Maffa in the hole and stopped him in his tracks. That caught my eye. Got the old rewind a few times. I was like,
Right.
okay, looks like he's a pretty solid tackler. I mean, it was a couple nice plays that caught my eye. Some upside as a blitzer. I thought, like instinctually, his eyes and stuff were inconsistent. He's probably because he was playing, then he was not. He was hurt and stuff. But yeah, it was a little bit inconsistent there. Zone reads could give him issues, gets him out of position, so he's kind of flowing the wrong way. It's like sometimes he didn't always trust what he's seeing. I thought it could cause him to hesitate. There's times, like I said, he came up, filled the hole took Phil Maffa down right at the line, and the next time he didn't, kind of was hesitant and got blown back. So it was ups and downs. Not going to totally convince you on Smael Mondon. He's a guy, though. He's athletic enough to maybe, like you said, gets 4th, 5th round. Maybe somebody takes a shot on him and see what they can get.
Yeah, it seems like he's going to be around that range.
Yeah.
Right now, it looks like 4th roundish is where he's going to go. And yeah, being at Georgia definitely helps, right? Like
Right.
the NFL does recognize that these guys, have some pedigree to them as well. So there will be something there for Smael. I would be shocked if he isn't drafted, but there's definitely potential. So I had him going to the New York Giants. Again, probably being another sub package guy at best. Micah McFadden has 1 year left on his rookie contract. Maybe there's, a role for him to follow kind of a similar path as like an early down contributor should McFadden actually depart. I know they got Darius Moassau there. He played way more than I'm sure the Giants were comfortable with last year. And, with other important team needs, they could look for some insurance at linebacker later in the draft and consider someone like Mondon here and battle to be an upgrade there at some point. So, I was just thinking for him, I went with the Giants, but how about you?
I went with the Colts, just them taking a shot on a guy for that spot. I much rather Jihaad Campbell there, like you just laid out before. That's
okay.
I went with the Colts. That spot next to Zaire. Lou Anarumo gets a guy to throw in there and lets him compete with Jalen Carley's and these guys to fill that spot. And yeah, just take a day 3 dart throw at him and see what happens.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, that could definitely work, man. But that's it, man. That's our kind of top 10 guys here that we were going to run through in detail. So what do you say we rank them all now, where we'll go through kind of like we'll do a countdown. We'll do 10 to 1.
Okay.
I think makes sense. Add a little suspense to it, see who number 1 is, even though I feel like it's probably going to be the same guy, and we maybe didn't hide our love for him all that well
Yeah.
here, but maybe the rest of the group, there will be a little bit more suspense. So I'll let you kick us off here. Who did you have as your number 10 linebacker from this group?
I had the guy we just talked about, Smael Mondon at 10.
Yeah, me as well. Also, Smael Mondon is my number 10. Who'd you have at number 9 then?
Cody Simon.
Cody Simon. Okay, yep. He's right there in that range for me. I ended up putting Cody Simon at 8 because I put Jay Higgins at 9. I'm worried about Higgins, man. I really do want to like him.
Yeah.
I think there's potential there. I just worry that the draft capital is going to be a killer, but he's probably the name that I'm willing to shoot up a little bit more after, draft capital and landing spot come into play here. And if they're a little bit more ideal, but yeah, I had Jay Higgins at 9 and Cody Simon at 8. You got Cody Simon at 9. Who's your number 8?
8, I had Higgins.
Okay.
Yeah, I gave him the bump up because I just like his game more. I'd have him much higher if I wasn't worried about how far he's going to slip in this draft. Just not knowing what teams are thinking and where they are comfortable with him athletically, because they like you said, they tend to lean into that. It seems so.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be something that the NFL covets, obviously, for athleticism, which I get, obviously, to an extent. But there are some outliers that kind of overcome that. It's just we'll see if Higgins ends up being one of those rare cases. How about so number 7? Who did you have at number 7?
7, my Clemson bias put Barrett Carter there.
Okay.
I struggle with him. I get it. I struggle with him because I don't know. Yeah, it's just the Clemson thing for me, probably more than anything.
I get it. I definitely get it. The Clemson linebackers haven't been overly kind to us recently.
Yeah.
So for me, at number 7, I put Danny Stutsman in that spot. We kind of talked about him, picturing him as kind of that early down thumper. I think there's limitations to his game as far as a coverage defender, right? So I don't know how much or if he'll be able to develop into that. Maybe he can. Just because he hasn't done it doesn't mean he can't do it at some point. But for right now, at least, I put Stutsman at 7.
Yep, I totally get it.
And then number 6 for me, I put Chris Paul Jr. Ole Miss. So this is pretty much all the day 3 guys covered for me in the back 5 here. It looks like, but I do like Chris Paul the most. I really wanted to put him a little bit higher. I know he's smaller and stuff, but I was feeling, again, we talked about it, but I feel optimistic about Chris Paul. If I'm betting on one of these day 3 guys, I kind of like him the best. But who did you have at 6?
6, I had Stutsman.
Okay.
Yeah, I just I like his appeal, especially as an IDP producer. I really do, but it's just that our teams come from. He's just like you said. We were talking about, is he a 2-down thumper? Do teams feel like they can get it out of him to play all 3 downs? I don't know. I do like his appeal as an IDP producer because the guy can rack up tackles. He's built for it. But so I had him at 6.
Nice, I like it. And then who did you have at 5 there?
5 was Chris Paul Jr.
Nice. So
gave him the nod.
As much as I liked him, you liked him more than I did. So
a little bit more, yeah. I kind of fought with him in Stutsman. I just thought Chris Paul has if I'm going to put him in San Francisco paired up with Fred Warner and wanted to see something cool happen, I guess. And he just got a little more 3-down potential for me, and I tend to lean that way with these guys. So
nice. Yeah, makes sense. Number 5 for me, I went Jalon Walker at number 5. So, we talked quite a bit about Jalon Walker. He has that potential to be the first linebacker drafted, but I do worry about, just kind of the role in the NFL, how long it's going to take him to acclimate to the NFL and become like a consistent fantasy starter, and just not knowing what his role is going to be and knowing that he doesn't have those skill sets just yet. Very, very raw at the position. that part worries me. So I
Yeah.
I have him kind of the lowest of these day one, day two guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's your number four?
Jalon Walker's 4 for me.
Okay. Makes
Yeah, and
sense.
it's a lot of the same thing. And the reason why, if we're just talking straight off ball linebacker, like the reason why he's above some of those other guys is because of that potential to go
Yeah.
in the first round, right? And
Yeah.
we were talking before the show, before we got hit live, about Reuben Foster was a guy who kept getting chances because he was a first round pick. A guy
Yeah.
I liked, I think you said you liked him too, and he kept getting chances because he was taken in the first round and teams thought they could get it out of him. So it's like if somebody's willing to take him with that high capital, they're going to give him time. They're going to give him a lot more chances, and somebody else might give him a chance. And so this could swing big time if he slips farther than anticipated for me, for sure.
It definitely could, right? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the whole reason he's even in the top five for me as well, right? Like, it's just that, yeah, the draft capital, the potential to constantly stick around in the NFL
yeah,
because we know how much teams are going to want to try to, get that potential out of him. And yeah,
yeah,
Reuben Foster is a good example. Like, that guy was a piece of shit. He had all kinds of red flags, but they kept giving him chances
yeah,
because he was that first round talent, and that potential was seemingly there. So, yeah, as long as Jalon Walker isn't a total trash bag of a human, I
yeah.
think
That
he's going
was.
to continue to get chances
Yeah,
as
I
well.
should probably make clear it wasn't a comp as a person; it was just as a player.
Yeah, no, yeah, for
Player,
sure.
yeah. We were just talking, first round linebackers that disappointed us. But yeah, he's just not a good dude either. So,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
yeah, just talking straight up, getting opportunity as a player.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, the first round guys definitely continue to get shots
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah.
So yeah, number four for me, that's where I put Barrett Carter.
Okay,
He's
makes
another. Yeah,
sense.
I know the Clemson thing. You know, I'm a little bit more optimistic about him than most Clemson linebackers. Although Isaiah Simmons, I mean, that one is the biggest burn because I really really liked Isaiah Simmons,
Oh, me
and
too.
thought he could potentially be something. But yeah, as far as the rest of the Clemson linebackers go, I like probably Barrett Carter the most outside of Isaiah Simmons. So as long as these, if he can get that landing spot, be a true off ball linebacker, then I think there's potential there, especially with that day two capital. So I kept him inside the top five here, but I definitely get the understanding to put him at outside of the top five as well.
Well, I think he's one that would climb. If we're talking about Walker coming down, he's one that could
Right.
definitely come up for me. I just got to get over it. Yeah, Isaiah Simmons ain't going to happen. I wanted it so bad. I'm not sure Trenton Simpson. I liked him, and
I
yeah,
know.
so
Yeah.
I just got to get over it. But right now, I'm struggling with myself. But yeah, he's
Fair.
one that definitely, like you said, if he does go, in day two and get a nice spot, he'll go up for sure.
Yeah, could happen. It's got to happen at some point here for the Clemson
Yeah,
linebackers.
yeah,
Hopefully,
has to.
yeah, you would assume. Who'd you have at number three?
Yeah, this is like this 2 and 3 were super hard for me to
Right. Yeah.
differentiate. Like it's you got tomorrow I could change my mind. I put Demetrius Knight at 3.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah, I really like him, and I think we both know who one's going to be for us. So you probably knew who I fought with to put him at 2.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. I have them switched as well. Like, I have Demetrius Knight at 2, and I have Carson Schwesinger at 3. It basically, yeah. I mean, and again, I know the age thing with Demetrius Knight. I just ended up really liking him,
Yeah.
liking his all around game just a little bit better than Schwesinger,
Yep.
a little bit more of a sample size. But it's really close. Like, I think, this is a 2A, 2B situation
Yep.
for me as well. But I do think there's a bigger gap between one and then that 2A and 2B.
Yep.
So obviously Jihaad Campbell is both of our number one linebackers here. I don't think there's really much of a question about it right now, especially heading into the draft. But we'll see coming out of the draft as well. Like, if this guy gets first round capital, he's gonna land somewhere where they're gonna use him. So
Yeah.
that's all that we can ask for here, because I think he definitely has the potential to be a consistent IDP starter for us. So yeah, man, it's a good list. Good list.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think you nailed it though. That 2A 2B with Schwesinger and Knight. That's exactly how I felt. Like I could switch those two up, but yeah, and then Campbell at one for sure. But I'm really excited to see where I'm going to keep trying to say Schwesinger, right, and Knight go. Those are two guys.
Yeah,
Those are two
yeah,
guys I really really like as well. But yeah,
yeah.
Campbell's a dude. So
Yeah. I came away liking this class. Like I think it's a
Mhm.
little bit better than some of the classes that we've had in years past. But we'll see. We'll see if it actually turns into anything, and how the NFL views them. But we got a couple potential first round guys here, so that
Yeah.
part of it alone is exciting. And we'll reconvene after the draft and do it all again, man. But there you go, folks. I hope that scratch the itch of rookie content for you here in the channel, but we've only just begun, because there will be a lot more of that every week here going forward, including previewing the edge class with Joey the Tooth and the safety class with John Glosser before we reconvene after the draft to do it all again. But right now, I have to give a massive shout out to my brother Kyle Bellefeuil for breaking down this year's incoming linebacker class with me. KB, always one of my favorite episodes to do every year, so thank you as always for making that happen.
Oh, right on, man. It's one of my favorites as well, dude. It's always fun to sit down and talk ball with you and hang out, talk before the show, after the show, and after we break down all the ball and talk to these players. And it's always fun to see how they stack up, like in what we're seeing and all that, man. But I really appreciate you having me on, man. I look forward to this every year as well.
Yeah, same here, man. It's always fun. Love talking linebackers. Hopefully, the people enjoy it. And before you go, please do let everybody know that what you got going over on Football Guys, and where they could find more of your work.
Yeah, you can find all my work over at footballguys.com. It's rookie dynasty season right now, so updating the dynasty ranks. Did me and Joey the Tooth did some profiles, some pre-combine profiles, breaking down our top 10 at each position,
Nice.
and that was fun. It's always fun to collab with Joey. And so just getting ready for my own drafts too, and getting excited, and I'll get to go to the draft this year in Green Bay, so I'm really excited about
Oh.
that. It's going to be probably wild. So
Oh man, that's
yeah,
amazing. Yeah, that'll be
yeah,
really cool. Yeah, what a fun experience, man. Enjoy. We'll talk after the
thanks, man.
draft, and we'll
Yeah,
get to hear all about it hopefully. And yeah, that'll definitely be a lot of fun. And maybe we could get some you can get in the ears of these NFL teams, get them to take Jihaad Campbell nice and high, either
yeah,
Indianapolis, or maybe the Rams or somebody like that
yeah.
that could
Give
work.
us what we want, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So yeah, as for me, I mentioned it earlier, the edge prospect model and the linebacker prospect model are out now in article form on pff.com. It has player profiles, success rates, comps, all that stuff in there. If you want to check that out, I'll link the linebacker one in this episode description. And then the running back model is coming out on Friday. So excited about that one as well. But thank you all so much for tuning in, liking, subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you all. And until next time, peace out.